Hi, and welcome back to Network Programmability Basics. My name is Hank Preston, a developer evangelist with Cisco DevNet, and in today's video we're going to introduce Cisco DNA Center Platform's APIs, and programmability. Now, Cisco DNA Center Platform are the programmability capabilities to the Cisco DNA Center controller. Now, today's video is of course part of the Network Controllers module to Network Programmability Basics. This is where we talk about all the things that let you manage centrally from operations, administration, configuration, automation, your entire network from a single point. We'll also look at cloud controllers such as Meraki or Cisco's DNA Center controller such as Cisco's ACI. Now, as with all of the Network Programmability Basics content, all of the examples and code that we're looking at today are available on GitHub at github.com/cisco-devnet/netprog_basics. Every lab includes a README where you can figure out how to set up your own environment to follow along with all the examples. And if you do not have a Cisco DNA Center of your own, DevNet Sandbox has your back. We have both always on as well as reservable instances that you can jump right into and take advantage of all of the great content we're going to cover today. Speaking of content, our agenda looks like this. We're going to start out by introducing the Cisco DNA Center's controller architecture as well as the platform capabilities that are delivered through the APIs and other adapters. From there, we're going to dive directly into the northbound REST API and see how we can take advantage of the applications and tools in a programmatic fashion. We'll look at those tools and application APIs through both Postman as well as Python. Let's dive right in. Now, Cisco DNA Center is a huge part of the intent-based networking journey from Cisco inside of the enterprise campus. At a foundation, we build on top of an intent-based infrastructure made up of the wired and wireless components from the Catalyst 9000 family of infrastructure. On top of that is Cisco DNA Center, driving all the automation, provisioning, assurance, everything to do with that infrastructure through Cisco DNA Center. Now, the platform capabilities that we're talking about today allow you to integrate Cisco DNA Center into your ITSM solutions, other management packages, IPAM, anything else that you have inside of your environment can be integrated using the platform capabilities. Now, the platform capabilities to Cisco DNA Center provide both north, south, east, and west access to the tool sets. From a northbound perspective, this is where the business and network intent APIs are delivered, giving you access to the applications and tools on top of Cisco DNA Center. To the west, we can go ahead and we can use an adapter that'll take us advantage into the IT and network systems process tools, things like ServiceNow from an ITSM perspective, or Infoblox as your IPAM solution. Now, Cisco DNA Center also integrates with other Cisco platforms through cross-domain integrations. Solutions such as Cisco's cloud networking solution with Meraki, or the security capabilities from StealthWatch. Now, if your infrastructure has components in it that don't automatically or aren't natively supported by Cisco DNA Center, in the southbound direction we have third-party SDKs that can be taken advantage of to build support to bring third-party devices into Cisco DNA Center using those southbound SDKs made available through DNA Center Platform. Now, if you've logged into Cisco DNA Center before, you've probably seen the main web interface, and you've run across the applications of design, policy, provisioning, and assurance. The platform capabilities, once installed to DNA Center, give you this fifth application of platform, and it's through that location where you'll get access to the APIs, the SDKs, and the adapters. Now, in addition to the applications, DNA Center is made up of several tools that provide the network engineer and administrator access to the great data and capabilities that Cisco DNA Center has to offer. We've got tools for discovering as well as managing our inventory, looking at the topology, managing software images through SWIM capabilities, licensing templates, running commands against your network device, even the telemetry information available. All of this is available through Cisco's DNA Center tooling that's there. Now, the reason I bring this up is the applications and the tools, that's what's made available through DNA Center Platform. We can see inside of that application, we've got links to jump into the API catalog, to look at the integrations, the adapters. You can also, right from the menu, jump into the API documentation and resources available up on DevNet directly from the GUI. Now let's look at the northbound REST API. And the way we get access to the main information is through the API catalog, which is available as a link from the platform application. When we look at the catalog off to the side, we'll see all of the categories of the APIs. We'll see things like operations or know your network, administrative tasks. Once you select a category in the main area inside of the web page, you'll find access to all of the individual APIs available under that category. Now, there are a lot of APIs available in the catalog. Find the ones you're looking for by taking advantage of the search box. Interested in interface APIs, just enter interface inside the search box and we'll filter down to just the APIs that match your search criteria. Once you find the API you're interested in, you can get the individual's APIs documentation by selecting it inside of the catalog. You'll see the request parameters as well as the models of what the API expects you to send. This would be considered the request model or the request schema, what you have to include when you make a request, as well as what you can expect to come back from a response. We'll have the response objects model and schema available inside of the API catalog as well. Now at the bottom we have a try it button. You can try those APIs directly against your infrastructure right from inside the API catalog. Now the first thing you have to do with any API is make sure you understand how to authenticate properly. So take a look at the authentication API available inside of the catalog. What you'll find is that you'll authenticate by using a POST request. That POST request will actually have HTTP basic authentication. And we've talked about basic authentication in the REST API videos. So if you need a reminder, go back to the REST API videos inside of the Programmability Fundamentals module. And you'll provide the username and password for your authentication. And then what you'll get back is a token in the response body. You'll use that token inside of an XAuth token header with all subsequent API requests. This is how you verify to Cisco's DNA Center that you are authorized to make the request you're asking for. Now enough of the docs, let's actually see this in action using Postman. Now if you've gone through any of the API videos, I'm sure you've heard me talk about Postman. I'm a huge fan. It's a simple but also very powerful REST API client. It allows us to quickly test our APIs and make sure we understand how to take advantage and how to use them. We can save those APIs into collections, build a full collection of your Cisco DNA Center APIs. You can set up environments to point at different DNA Center appliances. The DevNet sandbox ones are the ones that you have in your own lab. Set up environments for all of those. You can even auto-generate code from those API calls, and we'll see a bit of that here in a minute. Now our first step is to set up the environment for Cisco DNA Center. Here we can see I've created an environment for the DevNet sandbox always on Cisco DNA Center appliance. We give it the address. In this case, it's a fully qualified domain name of sandboxdnac.cisco.com, as well as the port, the username, and password. We can use those variables from the environment to set up our API requests, both inside the URI as well as inside of the authentication tab. Here's the example of how we'll send our authorization header away. Now with the environment set up, we can go ahead and do our login request. Now as we mentioned when we were looking in the API catalog, this will be a POST request. We'll be posting our request off to DNA/system/API/v1/auth/token. It's a bit of a mouthful to read those URIs off, but it all makes sense what we're after, right? We're making a system call to DNA Center. We're going to be doing that for an API. These are the version 1 APIs, and it's an authorization API, and we're requesting a token. So it all makes sense inside the URI. Now our credentials will be passed as part of an authorization header. Remember, it's that basic authentication where we take our username and password, stick a colon between them, give us a base 64 encoding. And we send that off through our POST request, and we'll get back a response body that includes the token information that we can use for all subsequent requests. Now with that done, once the request comes back, we want to take advantage of the test capability inside of Postman to save that token so we can more easily use it with all of those later requests we're going to make. We can see here we're creating a new environment variable called token inside of Postman and taking the data from our response body and storing that in the variable. With all that done, now we're ready to make our actual API calls. For an example, let's take a look at retrieving the device list from Cisco DNA Center. This will be a GET request because we're asking to retrieve information. That'll be a GET. And specifically, we're getting DNA/intent/API v1 network-device. Now, the key element for authentication here is that XAuth token header and making sure that we're using the token we retrieved from our authentication request previously. Now, we don't necessarily have to set the content type and accept headers, but I always recommend doing it. Be explicit for what you're expecting and what you're after. With that, we send the request away and retrieve our response back. We can see here our response body will model based on that response model we could have seen in the API catalog, and then we get our list of devices that come back. Now, Postman is a great tool for exploring the APIs, but when you're actually doing your network automation and stringing APIs together, you'll likely find moving into something like Python makes far more sense. So let's see how we can actually build on what we've learned with Postman. Now, as we've seen in other videos, Postman can auto-generate code using the code button inside of any API. Simply select the type of code you're after, in this case, Python based on the requests module. Now, this is a great starting point for your scripts, but odds are good you're going to want to update this to make it more modular and repeatable. For example, that authentication token that we retrieved, it's going to expire. We don't want to hard code it into our code here to retrieve network devices. We'll want to build some functions to request that as part of our script. So the auto-generated code is a great starting point, but let's see what this will look like from a real code example. Now, this code is, of course, stored up on GitHub in the netprog basics repository underneath network controllers and then DNAC. This is specifically example1.py. Now, we're starting from the Postman code, but we're making it more modular. We jump into it here by importing in all of the libraries that we'll need. And we can see the requests library has been highlighted as the go-to Python library when you're making a REST API request. Then we set up our basic header block that's here. Content type, application/JSON. That's the content type that we're going to be sending away when we make our authentication request. Now, our first function here is def DNAC login. Now, this is where we're actually going to log into our DNA Center controller. We provide the host name as the DNAC variable. We've got port in case your API is running on a non-standard port, username and password for our device. We can see the URL for authentication is provided here, and then we go ahead and make our post request. This will return the body of data, and then we pull out the actual token value and return that from our function. Now, this is the start of example1.py, but as you can see here, we actually continue on. There's just only so much code I'm willing to squeeze into one slide. So moving right along in example 1, our next function is where we actually go ahead and we request the list of network devices we're after. And we'll do this with a new function. So here in our def network device list function, we'll go ahead and use the same API call that we leveraged inside of Postman to request our list of network devices. Our response comes back and we go ahead and we return the data body of that from this function. With that, we're ready to go and move into the main portion of our actual program. Now, inside of our loop, we're going to take advantage first of our DNAC login to create a new variable called token. This will be our authentication token we can use. We use that token to retrieve our network device list, getting back a new variable we'll call devices. We loop over all of those devices, printing out the specific information that we're interested in into a user-friendly fashion. Now, if we run this script, this is what it would look like. Python example 1, and then we can see here in the output several of the devices that Cisco DNA Center has included in it. We see a wireless LAN controller as well as some switches. Now, our output, when we crafted our output inside of our Python script, we picked several pieces of data we were interested in. For example, we wanted to know the family, the management IP, the software version. But any of the data that comes back is fair game for us to include in our output. Now, in summary, we've gone through and we've introduced Cisco's DNA Center controllers architecture as well as the new platform capabilities that provide programmability. We explored the northbound REST API by diving in and seeing how the API catalog built directly into the Cisco DNA Center GUI lets you see what APIs are available. We then took advantage of using them both in Postman as well as through Python. Now, this is just the start of the Network Programmability Basics Network Controller module, so be sure to complete the entire course as you go through. Try out those code examples, see what's available for you, get your hands dirty with the APIs yourself. And then be sure to join DevNet for access to all the learning labs, sandboxes, code examples, API guides, and so much more. As always, please stay in touch. If you've got questions, feel free to reach directly out to me. You can find me at hapresto@cisco.com via email or WebEx Teams, or up on Twitter at hfpreston. And I encourage everybody to follow Cisco DevNet on all the social medias. With that, thank you so much for joining me for this video today. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks.